Board bombing. We're going to build a crossing on the curve this morning. I have a piece of homosode here to start with. It's about 10 inches wide and 16 inches long. I've got it divided into quadrants so that we can get the crossing in the center of the piece of homosode. And to start out with, I've got a 38-inch radius here that I've used for several years. You can see it's pretty well worn. So I'll start out here. And I'll draw one curve like this. And then I'll come back here and measure about 5 inches and see what I have in the vertical here. And that is about 8.5, so I'll come down here to 17 and come back with another curve. Now these are my center lines, and what I'll do, I'll take a piece of red pencil to get my outline for my tie spacing. Now the regular ties are about 1 1/8 inches in length, and of course the switch ties are 16th scale 16 feet. But what I'll do, I come in here about like this, and I'll put me a dot right here. I'll do the same over here. And I'll come in here.
So you're using the scale ruler there to mark your lines for your
That's the
regular ties.
For my ties, yeah.
And then you'll use your 38-inch radius again to draw the arcs to fit.
And they don't have to be real accurate, but you need to get them close enough.
Now the 2 dots in the center, what were those for?
In here, that's where my line. That's where my lines stop. They'll stop right here because we're going to have switch ties in the center of it there. Okay, now we'll use the red pencil to draw in our tie lines. And I start at the center here and come out to this end. Let's see, that can go right there. Then we'll come over this side and draw one in here.
So now you've completed your center lines and your tie lines. What are we going to do next?
The next thing I'll do is lay these ties right in here.
Lay
them
the
out.
switch ties.
From the switch tie. I've gotten off here just a wee bit. Okay, the switch ties will go in similar to that right there.
And how far will they extend, Malcolm?
Well, I lay them out 3 ties to a scale 5 feet, or 20 inches on center scale. I want to cut this one and put it right in the center, and then I'll go from the center each way.
So you're going to actually shorten them so they look...
Yeah. Now this is my miter box, and I have been using that for, I guess, 25 or 30 years. It's just about worn out, just like I am. Now, I use this Elmer's glue here very sparingly. Don't take much to hold a tie down. some people use it like it was going out of style.
Who might that be?
I have no idea. But I'll place that one right in the center. And then I have a pair of dividers here that's set on a scale of 5 feet. And first I need to have a
And that's to get perpendicular and
yeah, that's just a center line. Then I'll come in here and just step that off. That's about 2 steps each way. And the next thing I'll do,
and those will be the center points for your 5-foot ties. And then
Yeah.
you put 2 others in between.
in between, right. And I just do this so that I'll get them, you know, fairly straight. On these switch ties, I let them go beyond the red mark about 1/16 of an inch. See, now this one we're going to have to put some, splice them out because they're not going to be long enough. And that's no problem.
Looks like you got a pretty good bead of glue underneath that one, Malcolm. Is that too much glue?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, just checking.
I know what you're getting at. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think I got the wrong end. This is on a saw here. I know it's over 40 years old because I bought that before I moved up here from Dallas.
And you cut 3 of those the same length.
No, I just cut one on this. Now if I'm laying a switch tie or turnout, I use 3. But these are all different lengths in there.
Okay, so every one of them.
Every one of them be different. A little different length.
Okay, now you've laid all the ties and alternated them so that their lengths are alternating. Now you're going to splice the ties to make them extend beyond the
Yeah.
the margins there.
And I have to do that with a pair of tweezers.
Okay.
See, that's just about right. I think that's an off fall from what I had from the others a while ago.
So that's what it looks like when it's spliced.
Mm-hmm.
And now we fill in with the regular ties.
Now we're going to fill in with the regular ties, and we'll have to start out. And this is kind of you have to just kind of gauge it. But I'll start here like this on this one, and I'll lay that in there at an angle. And of course I'll come in here with this one like that, and it will be on an angle. I've got to do that until I can get where I'm perpendicular with a curved line here.
So the first couple are actually at skewed.
Right. Uh-huh.
And how many ties does it take to get from the center ties to the ones
It'll take
that are
about 4.
4 ties?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's just guessing. see.
So now we're finished laying the center of the crossing, and we can finish up now with just laying the regular ties, which are perpendicular
To the curve.
To the curve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now I'll use the dividers to step this off, and step it off on the center line.
And that'll be the center for a tie every 5 feet,
Right.
and you'll place 2 ties spaced equal
In
distance
between.
between them.
That's
3 to
it.
5.
I usually come and just put these in, and then I space the ties in between. You just have to do that by eye.
Okay, and those are your 5-foot ties, and we'll fill in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just laying the ties there, and you'll do the other 3 arms,
Yeah.
and then we'll be ready to lay some track.
Lay rail. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're finished laying ties, and we're ready to lay rail now. Is that correct?
Yeah. How many of that package has a 70 rail in it behind?
So what's the plan on laying rail?
Well, you work to the center line, for one thing. Now you've come up with the idea of laying it from, probably here to here, and from here to here, and so forth. I'm just wondering how's that going to save time?
I'm not sure it will save any time at all, Malcolm. I think what it will do will make sure that the center part of the cross track maintains electrical conductivity.
Well, it could at that, huh?
That was,
But-
I didn't think of that for a time-saving effort. It might actually cost more time, but
Well,
it'll make sure that the center of the cross track has got power to it.
I'm not sure just exactly where we can start and where we can stop on that, though.
We've laid a single piece of rail there as kind of a guide to start our other pieces of rail, which will actually make the cross track.
Right.
And this is a little bit different way than you've done it
Yeah.
before. It's kind of an experiment.
Well, before I'd run 2 rails all the way through and then come in
Yeah,
and fill in.
yeah. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Let's see how this one works.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Fit on there.
Okay.
Make it work in our circular or curve type.
Okay. Just kind of give that a little
Now,
bit of.
I have angled this just a little bit to meet this rail here. In fact, I don't want it touching that rail.
Okay. So, when you cut the rail, you filed it down so it would be so it would be parallel. The end of the rail would be parallel with the other rail.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
And we put a little curve on the rail so it fits better on the curve.
Right.
And now you're going to measure a
Yeah, that'll. You know, some of this rail is harder than others. Some of it just as flexible as it can be, and others is just, I think it's a temperature of it, how they tempered it. You know, I'm going to start back here and work to the center line.
So you're going to spike that whole rail before you cut a slot in it.
Yeah. What do you mean cut a slot in it?
Well, you got to cut a slot for the oncoming rail.
Well, we won't do that until the last thing,
Okay.
after we get them all in place. Then we can go in there and do that. It might be much easier.
Yeah. And now we've got one rail up against the other. What's the next step, Malcolm?
I thought my next step would be put one right in here to this rail.
Okay.
And it'd be parallel with these, see?
Okay.
And another one would be parallel with here, see?
Okay, so now we have another piece of rail in there forming our diamond.
We're going to come in here this time.
Oh, okay.
And the next piece will come in here like this.
Okay, so we finished, don't move it.
Nope.
So we finished with the laying the rail. Now we have to
Put our
put
guardrails
the guardrails in and cut the slots so that the opposing rail, the wheels can fit
Well, we
through.
won't cut the slot until after we get all the guardrails and get it epoxied.
Oh, so we
And
cut
then
the...
we'll cut the slots.
Sounds good. Okay, so now we have our outside guardrails on, and we have the inside guardrails to
Inside the diamond, there's
inside the diamond,
all we like,
and then we have to epoxy it and cut it, and we're finished.
Right.
We file the points on those so they're parallel with the opposite rail,
Yeah.
and give them about 1/16 of an inch clearance, more than that. So the rails on inside the diamond we hot glued in,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not touching each other,
Nothing.
nor are they touching any spikes on the outside rails. And that should make things operate very well then.
Mm-hmm. And our next deal will be to put the epoxy in there.
Now we epoxy the whole thing in there.
And then we'll clean it out and we'll,
We don't add spikes to the inside diamond now,
not until we epoxy it.
not until we epoxy it. Okay. And then after the epoxy, we also cut
Yeah.
gaps in the original rails.
That'll finish it.
Okay, super. Setting up a little batch of epoxy. Use JB Weld.
Mm-hmm.
You get that at the auto store?
Yeah,
Yeah.
AutoZone.
And then we apply it.
Ashby gets it for me.
Okay.
He gets a discount, that's the reason why he gets it for me.
We just work it into the grooves there on the diamond.
Yeah.
We forgot to solder the outside guide rails. Or
Well,
you...
we can do that anytime.
Okay. Okay, you also put a little stuff on the outside there too.
That's just in case the rails should move that they won't be touching and short out.
Yeah.
Once that epoxy sets in there, it isn't going to move.
You go all the way across those small guide rails inside the diamond.
Right.
And a little bit either side of the diamond.
And outside.
Outside the diamond. We give this about 4 hours to cure.
About 4 hours,
Otherwise, you
Well,
need
see,
a,
you can let it go till tomorrow, but it takes about twice as much work to get it out of there. 'Cause that stuff really does set up. There was a fellow, he was a master sergeant out here, Shepherd. He was the one that came up with this epoxy idea. I used to do all this with solder. And I'll tell you what, that was a job cleaning that solder out of there.
probably a job putting the solder in.
Yeah. He was quite a craftsman, but he would never finish anything. You know, I think I've got enough epoxy here. We can go ahead and put it on these outside and not have to solder them.
Now, Malcolm, you'd mentioned that when we put the epoxy in the diamond and just outside the diamond, we actually built it up pretty thick, so when it contracts,
Yeah.
it'll stay there, and then we just
Especially on the corners of the diamond.
yeah, right at the points of the diamond there, and that'll all set up in about 4 hours, and we'll file that out, and
We're through.
we do that with a with what tool?
Well, I use a short piece of hacksaw blade and 4-inch knife file.
4-inch knife file. What about the rail that we have to cut through? We have 4 sections of rail to cut through.
I'll use a cutting disc on a cordless. I use this Dremel here, this cordless rental, and I use a cutting disc. And
Okay.
it'll go real slow, so you can handle it real good.
Okay. We don't want to cut through the rail.
No,
Okay.
all you want to do is just cut the head out of it.
Okay. And then we'll use our test trucks to make sure everything runs smoothly. Great. So 4 hours later, our epoxy is moderately hard, but not too hard. Malcolm, what are we going to do now to finish this cross track up?
Well, I'm gonna use my Dremel here in this cutting disc to cut these joints right in here where we run the rails all the way through. There's 4 different places. And I do it with this cordless Dremel and a smaller cutting disc because I control the speed of it. And we'll try to see what happens here. Now let's see if we'll use a piece of a hacksaw blade to rough the epoxy out, and then we'll use a 4-inch knife file to dress it up and trim it. If I don't.
One of them at a time.
We'll try another one here now. That'll work pretty good.
How do you cut the hacksaw blade in half? You cut the hacksaw with another hacksaw
I
blade?
put it in the vise and break it.
Oh, you bend it and it finally fatigues?
Yeah, it'll break. That's about, you can't hardly cut it.
We do that for each of the 4 tracks, then clean out the outside guardrails as well.
Yeah.
How many hours have we spent on this cross track?
Gosh, I don't know.
Probably about 4. Probably about
I'm not sure just what we did spend.
4.5 hours.
Something like that.
Okay.
Takes more time to do this than it does a turnout.
But you get a cross track the way you want it instead of a
Yeah.
fixed 90 degree or a fixed 45 degree.
Well, you can make it fit whatever you need.
That's the beauty of it.
Just running that through there, that box is still a little bit high. I'll have to cut it down a little bit more.
Well, Malcolm, we're finished. That runs real well. And we've spent
Put a date on it.
probably 4.5 to 5 hours on it. We've saved $12.
Yeah. See, today is September the 24th, huh?
September 24th, 1998. Well, you showed us a lot of tricks, a lot of your secrets. Anyone who sees these tapes will be able to build a turnout and a cross track, and it just takes persistence. Got to be careful. And there we go. Do you have any last suggestions for would-be track builders?
Well, it's BG approved. Billy Goat approved.
Well, thanks for spending time with me today and showing me how to do all these things. It's been fun.
It's my pleasure.